Welcome to the DPost Sports Chat. I'm Drew Rubenstein with Ed Owens, and we're back at M&T Bank Stadium where the Mountaineers just suffered a 37-0 defeat to the Maryland Terrapins. First shutout loss for WVU since 2001 when Rich Rodriguez's Mountaineers fell to Virginia Tech 35-0. And Ed, nothing seemed to really go right for WVU. Let's start on the offensive side. Where and how did things just kind of fall apart for West Virginia?
Yeah, from the beginning, they really weren't protecting freshman quarterback Ford Childress very well at all. There was some pressure on him when he did have time to throw. He wasn't making throws. When he made the throws, the receivers weren't catching them. It was just kind of a comedy of errors for the offense, and they never really got things off the ground tonight.
And running the ball, I think, was first and foremost. West Virginia headed into this game knowing that they needed to establish the run. That just didn't happen. They ended up with 113 rushing yards. 51 of those came on a Dream Smith run at the very end of the game when things didn't really matter. That said, you look at the course of the season, 4 games into the year, WVU has 9 offensive touchdowns. What's going wrong with this offense?
Yeah, and actually the run game is one of the things we talked about. It was one of our keys to the game. They really needed to establish that to keep the pressure off Childress. They weren't able to do it. I think everyone is confused as to what is wrong with this offense. They aren't really doing anything well. They really struggled to run the ball tonight. They couldn't pass the ball tonight. Dana said it's the worst offensive line performance that they've ever had, I think he said, while he's been here. So it just sounds like they're frustrated. Shannon Dawson was talking about going back to the drawing board and stripping this thing down, starting from scratch. He actually said they have to figure out what their identity is. So if the coaches, especially the offensive coaches who the architects of this offense, don't really have a pulse on what's going on, it really looks like they're going to have to start back over and figure this thing out from square one.
Dana Holgorsen also used the word inept to describe the offense, and it was a historically bad performance for West Virginia and for Holgorsen, so I would agree there. Going on the opposite side, defensively wise, how do these defenders come away feeling from this game? It felt like a lot like 2010 where Maryland did put up 37 points, but when you actually break down the drives and how Maryland scored, it wasn't necessarily always the defense's fault.
No, Maryland scored 4 touchdowns. All 4 of them came off turnovers. 3 scoring drives off turnovers and 1 interception returned for a touchdown. Afterwards, give the defensive guys credit. They had the opportunity to kind of shove some of the blame in other directions. Special teams offense obviously came up short today, but they really kind of said it's a team thing. It's a team loss. They win and they lose together. They weren't pushing any of the blame off on anybody else. They did some of the right things. They held Maryland to 113 rushing yards, but in the end, it's the final score that those guys are worried about.
And moving forward for West Virginia, 2 more weeks before they have a bye, Oklahoma State and Baylor. Maybe 2 of the top teams in the Big 12, the way things have played out in the first course of the season. Are these quick fixes for West Virginia, or is this pretty worrisome getting into the meat of Big 12's play?
I don't think there's any quick fixes for what we saw tonight, especially when they're talking about going back and starting from scratch. So I think it's going to take time. It's going to take some hard lessons and a lot of on-the-job learning for these guys. They've got a lot of inexperience in a lot of key places, and I think maybe WVU fans can brace themselves for a few more efforts like we saw tonight.
All right, Ed, thanks a lot, and thank you for tuning in. That'll do it for us tonight. Please continue to check The DPost for the latest on the Mountaineers.